Music. Picture this. A farmer named Jose, excited and determined, arrives at the airport to purchase his private jet. But as soon as he steps through the doors, the way he's treated by both the employees and the other customers is anything but welcoming. They treat him with rude and prejudiced behavior, instantly judging him based on his appearance. When Jose walks in, the salesperson takes one look at him and immediately assumes that someone dressed like him couldn't possibly afford such an extravagant purchase. They were expecting a much more polished, well-dressed buyer, someone who clearly had wealth and status. But there's Jose, a simple farmer, plain and unassuming in his attire. Despite their assumptions, Jose doesn't let their judgment affect him. He's genuinely interested in the plane, and he's determined to make the purchase. As Jose continues to show interest in the jet, the salesperson's patience begins to wear thin. "Well, if you're not really interested, I'll have to move on to someone else," the salesperson huffs dismissively. Taken aback by the rudeness, Jose is left stunned, feeling the sting of disrespect. But with a calm resolve he answers, "Actually, I am interested in buying it." However, instead of a shift in attitude, the salesperson's hostility only deepens as they realize that Jose might actually be a serious buyer. Around them, the other customers start to judge Jose too, making loud remarks that are clearly meant for him to hear. "He doesn't look like someone who could afford this," one whispers. "He must be lost," another sneers. The cruel glances they throw his way make him feel like he's standing in a spotlight, exposed and uncomfortable. Although buying the jet was a long-time dream of his, these judgmental looks begin to shake his confidence. The humiliation is almost too much to bear. He starts questioning if it's all worth it. But despite all of this, he refuses to back down. He keeps his head up, determined to continue. Then, out of nowhere, a tap on his shoulder jolts him. Startled, Jose quickly spins around, ready to confront whatever challenge may come his way. But instead of a confrontation, he's greeted by the warm smile of an old friend, casually dressed in a striped shirt and pants that seem a bit worn around the edges, his belly slightly round with age. "Well, if it isn't my old friend Jose." "What are you doing here?" his friend says, chuckling lightly, breaking the tension in the air. The two men catch up like no time has passed, though Jose still can't shake the uneasy feeling from the harsh glare surrounding him. As they talk, his old friend asks, "Are you here to buy a plane, Jose?" Jose hesitates for a moment, unsure if he should share his discomfort, but then says, "Well, yes, I was thinking about it. But honestly, I just don't feel like I belong here with these people." His friend laughs it off. Don't worry about these rich snobs. They don't know a thing about real life," he says with a smile. The two share a laugh, but despite the moment of humor, Jose can't escape the whispering and judgmental looks. It's clear that the other customers are mocking him. He doesn't look like he's here to buy a jet. Maybe he just came for a picture, one mutters under their breath. Jose catches the men preparing their cameras, not to capture a memory but to make a mockery of him. The comments grow louder, more audacious, and the taunts start to sting. His discomfort increases with each passing second, his heart racing as he struggles to maintain his composure. Despite the humiliation, he begins to follow his friend toward the exit, hoping to escape the negativity. But just as they're about to leave, a loud, authoritative voice cuts through the air, freezing him in place. "Hey, you there!" someone shouts, pointing directly at him. "The farmer who's here to buy a jet." The voice is sharp, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Do you really think anyone's going to take you seriously dressed like that? That dirty hat. You should head back to your farm where you belong." The entire airport seems to pause, turning their attention to him. Jose's heart pounds in his chest as he slowly stops and turns to face the crowd. Despite his lack of experience in handling confrontation, something inside him shifts. A surge of pride and determination fills him, and he finds his voice. "I'm buying a plane for myself, not to impress anyone," he says, his words firm and confident. The mocking laughter erupts around him. "No matter what you do, you'll never be one of us. Just look at yourself. Your clothes are stained, your boots are filthy. You don't even look like a decent person. The words hit him, but instead of crumbling, Jose stands tall, raising the corner of his mouth in a sardonic smile, ready to retort. I am more than decent, he responds with a quiet strength. I'm someone with the courage to chase my dreams, even if it means standing against the tide of what others expect of me. The laughter continues, relentless. Dream on, Jose. Let's see how many years it'll take you to save enough for this jet. It'll take more than a lifetime. And even if you somehow manage to scrape up the money, who's going to fly it for you? You're just a nobody. Go back to your farm where you belong. Their words echo in his ears, but instead of feeling defeated, Jose feels his anger ignite. His resolve is stronger than ever, and though it takes everything in him to stay composed, he refuses to let their words diminish his spirit. The pride and determination inside Jose only grew stronger. Standing tall, he looked directly at the man who had spoken so harshly to him. I'm not dreaming, he said, his voice calm but confident. And I have proof. The group fell into a heavy silence. Everyone was waiting to see what Jose would do next. His expression was unwavering, resolute, and his stance was defiant. He wasn't backing down. Then, without hesitation, Jose pulled out a check, one that matched the exact price of the jet. You say I can't buy a jet, he asked, his voice steady as he locked eyes with the group. The tension in the air was palpable. The room was stunned into silence. Some of the men averted their gazes, their faces now reflecting shock and embarrassment rather than disdain. One of them, clearly flustered, stammered, I think we should leave. We don't want any trouble. He quickly averted his eyes, his tone faltering. But Jose wasn't about to let the matter slide. He raised his voice, demanding attention. What's this? What's going on here? His tone was commanding, the authority in his voice cutting through the crowd. I want my son to know exactly what you've done to me. Without missing a beat, Jose pulled out his phone and dialed his son. His voice filled with anger as he spoke. You need to get here right now, he said. There are several men here who've been discriminating against me, including the salesperson. In less than an hour, the phone rang again. I'm here, said his son firmly. The airport doors swung open with a force that made everyone stop and turn. All eyes were on the man who entered, and the contrast between him and the other men in the room was impossible to ignore. Jose's son walked in, dark-skinned, impeccably dressed in a sharp suit, radiating confidence and authority. His presence was a stark contrast to the way the men at the airport had treated his father. Dad, are you okay? His son asked, his concern clear in his voice. Jose nodded, trying to maintain his composure. Yes, I'm fine. The men at the airport, who had once been so bold in their judgment of Jose, now looked at his son with clear unease. The lawyer's voice was unwavering as he addressed them. You will pay for what you've done to my father, he said. I'm here to make things right. Jose's son moved through the group of men, demanding information from each of them. I'll sue every one of you, along with the company you work for discrimination. His words were firm, calculated, and resolute. It was clear that he wasn't just going to let this slide. With that, father and son left the airport. As they walked towards their car, the judgmental stares of the men followed them, lingering until they were completely out of sight. I'm so proud of you, Jose said, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. A wave of gratitude and pride filled him, knowing his son had stood by him when it mattered most. The case was eventually brought to court, and a mediation hearing was scheduled. Both Jose and his son, armed with strong evidence and the support of witnesses, were prepared to present their case. They would show just how deeply Jose had been discriminated against and humiliated. As the case unfolded in the courtroom, it was clear that both sides had their say. Jose and his son articulated their case eloquently, supported by documents and testimony that proved the mistreatment Jose had endured. The judge, after listening to both sides, seemed visibly frustrated with the situation. From what I've seen, the judge said, clearly irritated, it's evident that Jose was treated unfairly. A person's appearance should never be grounds for discrimination. This much is clear. However, the judge's tone shifted slightly as he hesitated before continuing. But, he said slowly, I cannot ignore the fact that the employees involved also have their side of the story. After all, there are always two sides to every story. José's lawyer quickly interrupted, his voice filled with indignation. With all due respect, Your Honor, my client is a hard-working, deserving individual who has every right to demand justice for what happened to him. The judge raised his hand, silencing him. You're right, he said. José has every right to feel indignant and to fight for what's rightfully his. No one should be made to feel less than because of their appearance. José couldn't help but smile slightly, feeling as though the courtroom was beginning to sway in his favor. But the judge's next words caught him off guard. However, the judge continued, I must also take into account the company involved. They have a reputation to maintain, a brand to protect, and it's important we consider all factors. The room fell into silence. The tension in the air was thick, and it felt as though everyone was holding their breath. I believe, the judge said slowly, that instead of simply condemning the company, perhaps José and the company should work together to find a solution. If the company acknowledges its mistake and makes changes to their attitude, I may consider reducing the penalty. One of José's lawyers stood up, clearly outraged. We cannot accept this proposal. The company committed a serious violation against José and must be held accountable for their actions. Another lawyer joined the discussion, his voice filled with determination. José was humiliated by this company and its employees. We won't let this go without consequences. His words were sharp, filled with righteous anger. The judge, though clearly irritated by the lawyer's fervor, sighed, then nodded in agreement. If that's how you want to proceed, then we'll start the trial, he declared coldly, a hint of finality in his tone. But remember, if you don't have solid evidence, you could lose everything. With those words, the trial officially began. José watched closely, both eager and anxious, as his lawyers skillfully built a compelling case, emphasizing the discrimination and humiliation he had endured. The company's lawyers, however, tried to deflect the accusations, presenting weak counterarguments. But José and his team were prepared, diligent and sharp, ensuring that every piece of evidence was laid out with precision. The trial became more intense with each passing moment, both sides fighting fiercely to prove their points. José, though nervous, remained optimistic. The evidence seemed to be stacking in his favor, but he could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing on him. The judge's stance was still unclear, and the tension in the courtroom was palpable. As the days passed and the trial continued, everyone waited with bated breath for the final verdict. Then one day, the courtroom doors suddenly swung open. A familiar face entered, catching everyone off guard. Who wants to testify? The judge asked, clearly perplexed by the new development. The new witness was a woman, a staff member from the airport who had come forward to offer her testimony. Well, it seems we have another witness, the judge said, his tone shifting to one of intrigue. If you have relevant recordings, we'll accept them as evidence. The woman, Patricia, stepped forward with determination. I heard everything, she declared loudly, her voice unwavering. And I recorded it all. Of course they tried to stop me, but I wouldn't let them treat José this way. The courtroom fell silent as Patricia connected her phone to the courtroom system. Everyone watched in stunned silence as the recordings began to play, filling the room with a sound of mocking, derisive laughter and cruel comments aimed at José. The room was tense, and the audience seemed to collectively hold their breath. As the audio stopped, the judge sat back in his chair, clearly stunned by the evidence presented. He gathered his papers slowly, taking a moment to process what he had just heard. The silence in the room was thick, and all eyes were on him as he finally spoke. In light of this new evidence, the judge said firmly, "This court finds that José was indeed discriminated against and humiliated by this company." His gaze shifted to the company's lawyers, who now seemed uneasy. The judge, lowering his glasses, glared at them. They have much to learn about respect, he added coldly. Then he made his final decision. Therefore, the court orders the company to pay a substantial fine and conduct sensitivity training for all employees. The sound of the gavel echoing through the courtroom was a sound Jose would never forget. He felt an overwhelming sense of victory. He had won and justice had been served. As he left the courtroom with a wide grin, his lawyers were already planning how to invest the fine money, suggesting it could go towards helping Jose purchase an even better jet than the one he originally wanted. Returning to the airport, this time with a large check in hand, Jose walked with his head held high, his confidence radiating from every step. The airport employees who had once mocked him now looked at him with clear embarrassment and regret. He stopped in front of them, turning to face the staff who had humiliated him. With a steady, calm voice he asked, "Still think I'm a nobody?" Then, without missing a beat, he declared loudly, "I'm going to buy my jet. But not from you. I'm going to your competitor. They deserve my money, not you." The employees stood frozen, their faces pale, as Jose turned and walked confidently towards the competitor's store. There he purchased the best jet he could afford, a symbol of his victory. As he boarded his new plane, he could hear the staff from the other store muttering amongst themselves, regret and realization settling in. Jose flew home in his new jet, feeling more cheerful and confident than ever before. The hum of the engines beneath him seemed to echo the triumph he felt inside. When he landed, his wife and children were waiting for him, their faces lighting up with joy as they welcomed him home. The family gathered together to celebrate the victory, and as they embraced, Jose looked at his new jet with pride. He thought about the valuable lessons he had learned throughout this journey, about resilience, fighting for what's right, and never letting anyone's judgment define you. It had been a long road, but Jose had emerged stronger and more determined than ever before. To all the viewers, Jose's story is one of persistence, courage, and triumph over adversity. If you found this journey as incredible as we did, don't forget to leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.